They told her she didn't belong. They whispered it in the hallways, shouted it on the training grounds, and wrote it in the dirt with their boots. One instructor even looked her dead in the eyes on day one and said, "Girls like you don't survive this. Go home." She didn't go home, Doc. This is the story of Maya Hartwell. And the day the world found out exactly what she was made of, Doc, drop your city and state in the comments. Let's see how far this story reaches. And if you respect the brave men and women who serve, make sure you're following for more powerful military stories. Maya grew up in a small town in rural Ohio, the kind of place where the biggest Friday night event was the high school football game. Her father was a veteran. Her grandfather was a veteran. But Maya? Maya was a girl, and in her town, that meant something very specific about where your path was supposed to lead. She didn't care. From the time she was 12 years old, she would wake up at 5 in the morning, run 3 miles before school, and spend her evenings reading every military biography she could find. Her walls weren't covered in pop stars or movie posters. They were covered in maps. When she turned 18 and walked into the Navy recruitment office, the officer behind the desk actually laughed. Not a mean laugh, just a disbelieving one. "You're serious?" he asked. "I've never been more serious about anything in my life," she said. She passed every entrance exam. She aced the physical. She showed up to basic underwater demolition and SEAL training, known as Bud S, as one of the first women ever permitted to attempt the course under a new pilot program. She arrived with her kit packed, her jaw set, and her father's old dog tags around her neck. And then the real fight began. Bud S is designed to break people. That's not a metaphor. It is literally engineered to find your absolute limit and then push past it. The cold water, the sleep deprivation, the endless miles of wet sand, the logs carried on bleeding shoulders. Most candidates ring the bell and walk away within the first week. The dropout rate hovers around 80%, even for elite male athletes. For Maya, the physical suffering was something she had prepared for. What she hadn't fully prepared for was the social war. Some of the other candidates, not all, but some, made it their personal mission to remind her every single day that they believed she didn't belong there. Subtle sabotage, cold shoulders, muttered comments during night runs. One morning, she found the word "quit" scratched into the mud outside her bunk. The instructors, bound by protocol, kept the training fair. But they couldn't control everything. And the loneliness of it, being surrounded by dozens of people and still feeling utterly alone, was a weight heavier than any log she carried. There was one night, somewhere in the middle of Hell Week, when Maya sat on the beach at 2 in the morning, soaking wet, her body shaking from cold and exhaustion. And she asked herself the question every person in pain eventually asked, "Is this worth it?" She reached up and touched her father's dog tags, and she thought about something he had told her once, sitting on the back porch watching a storm roll in over the cornfields. He had said, "Maya, the people who doubt you the loudest are usually fighting the loudest battle inside themselves. Your job is not to convince them. Your job is to show up." She stood up. She walked back to the line. Weeks later, during a live marksmanship qualification, the kind of test that separates candidates from operators, something happened that nobody expected. The range was 1,000 yards. Moving targets, wind variables, conditions that humbled even seasoned shooters. One by one, candidates stepped up and took their shots. Results were solid, but not spectacular. Then Maya stepped to the line. The range went quiet. Not the respectful quiet of anticipation. The dismissive quiet of people not expecting anything. She slowed her breathing. She thought of nothing but the geometry of the moment. Wind speed, bullet drop. The arc of physics that connects a finger on a trigger to a target a kilometer away. She had been studying this, obsessing over this. While others socialized, she had been in the simulator. While others slept the extra hour, she had been running the calculations in her notebook. She fired. Then again. Then again. When the scores came back, The range officer read the numbers twice. Maya had achieved a grouping that broke the training record for that course. Not the female record. The record. The range was silent for a long, stunned moment. Then one of the loudest skeptics, a big, broad-shouldered guy from Georgia named Tanner, who had been one of the cruelest voices in those early weeks, walked over to Maya. The whole group watched. He extended his hand. "I owe you an apology," he said, "and I owe you some respect." Maya shook his hand. She didn't gloat. She didn't cry. She just nodded, because she hadn't done it for any of them. She had done it because it was the truth of who she was, and the world had simply caught up to it. Maya went on to complete the program. She became a designated marksman attached to special operations teams. Over the following years, her name appeared in classified after-action reports that most people will never read. Missions where her calm, her precision, and her unshakable composure under pressure made the difference between success and catastrophe. She was never motivated by revenge. She was never driven by the need to prove her critics wrong. She had learned, in the cold water, in the dark, in the mud, that the only opinion about your worth that truly matters is the one you form in the silence of your own heart. Because here's the truth that Maya's story teaches us. Doubt from other people is just noise. It is the sound of their own fears wearing your name. The people who tell you that you cannot do something almost never speaking from wisdom. They are speaking from the ceiling of their own imagination. Your life does not have to fit inside someone else's expectations. Your purpose does not need their permission. You are allowed to show up fully, completely, without apology, in exactly the space you were built for. And when you do, when you stop arguing with the critics and simply do the work, the silence that follows your achievement will be louder than any insult that ever came before it. If Maya's story moves something in you today, I want you to carry that feeling with you. And if you know someone who is being told they don't belong, share this with them. Because sometimes the most powerful thing one person can do for another is simply say, "I see you and I believe in you." If this video gave you even a moment of relief, a moment of strength, hit that like button and subscribe to Soul Relief Stories. We put out new stories every week, stories built to remind you of who you really are. Leave a comment below. What is one thing someone told you that you couldn't do, that you proved them wrong about? We'll see you in the next story.